And welcome back. Last month, the National Association of Realtors reported that home prices fell from a year ago by 0.9%. That was only the second time in the last 11 years that prices decreased on a year-over-year basis. That trend just got worse though in April because it was just reported today that home prices posted the biggest year-over-year drop in more than 11 years, which is absolutely insane. This is based on a brand new report that was just announced from the National Association of Realtors today. So in today's video, I'm going to share all the details. And by the way, today's video is based on my own analysis of their data, especially regarding home sales and home prices nationwide. So therefore, the trends I'm sharing in today's video, you probably won't hear it anywhere else because much of it is based on my own analysis of their actual data itself. And of course, if you guys appreciate that, then also consider subscribing. And of course, hit the like button if you guys get any value out of today's video. So with that said, I have a lot to share in today's video, so let's go ahead and dive right in. This is the actual report from the National Association of Realtors, which I actually did not even read yet. Instead, I want to share this with you guys first. This is a table showing existing home sales on a seasonally adjusted annualized basis here. So for the month of April, the most recent data they just shared today, which is May 18th, the seasonally adjusted annualized rate of home sales nationwide is 4,280,000, 4.28 million. That's a decrease of 3.4% compared to March, and a giant decrease of 23.2% compared to last year's levels. Also, home sales decreased compared to last month, but also compared to 1 year ago in each of the four major U.S. regions. That's the Northeast, the Midwest, the South, and the West. So on a month-to-month basis, the West fell the most, down by 6.1%, whereas the Northeast and the Midwest fell the least, down by 1.9%. On a year-over-year basis, this is April 2022 compared to April this year. The West fell the most, down by 31.3%, and after that was the Northeast, fell by 23.9%. But on a year-over-year basis, each of these four major regions posted a decrease of at least 20%. And stay tuned here in just a little bit because I'm going to be sharing price trends. So when looking at price trends for each of these four major regions, there's some very big differences here, unlike home sales here. So before I share that, I want to share this right here. This is based on my own analysis of the National Association of Realtors data here. So again, for April, 4.28 million. So home sales on a seasonally adjusted annualized basis here have decreased in 14 out of the last 15 months. In fact, the only month in which home sales actually increased over the last 15 months was back in February, going from 4 million to 4.55 million. So that's that. Also want to share this with you guys as well because at 4.28 million, when looking at pre-pandemic levels, this is the lowest pre-COVID levels going back to July of 2011. The lowest pre-COVID levels going back to July 2011, 4.28 million. The lowest levels right here going back to July right here when the annualized home sale pace there was 4.15 million. And also, as I mentioned, on a year-over-year basis, home sales fell by 23.2%. And by the way, this is the 20th consecutive month in which home sales fell on a year-over-year basis. So yes, you heard me right. That's nearly 2 years in which home sales have fallen on a year-over-year basis. One more thing I do want to add regarding closed home sales for April though, is that this is based on signed contracts in February and March this year, when average rates for a 30-year fix was around 6.4%. And because rates have been more or less plateauing over the past 2 months or so, I would imagine that closed home sales is likely to be at the same levels or very close to April's levels once May results are announced in about a month from now. And I say that because our housing market this year seems to be highly rate sensitive. So when rates spike, we see a huge decrease in home buying demand. And of course, just the opposite happens when rates decrease as well. So that's home sales. I want to talk about home prices right now because I have so much to share. So for April, the median sold price in the US was $388,800. That's down 1.7% compared to April 2022. Again, I have a lot more to share regarding trends here in just a little bit. But the all-time record high was set back in June at $413,800. So when looking at year-over-year price trends, look at this, because in the West, in April compared to April last year, the median sold price is down by 8%. The South only decreased by 0.6%, whereas the Northeast and the Midwest actually saw a gain. So for example, in the Northeast, they saw a gain of 2.8%. The Midwest increased by 1.8%. So if we didn't have this giant decrease of home prices in the West, this number right here, compared to last April, would likely be positive. It just goes to show how real estate is local, and of course, every real estate market is different, of course, right? So before I share my own analysis of home prices nationwide here, let's have a look what the National Association of Realtors had to say. So here's what they had to say here. So the median sold price for all housing types in April was $388,800, a decrease of 1.7% compared to a year ago. Prices rose in the Northeast and the Midwest, but retreated in the South and West. Roughly half of the country is experiencing price gains, according to Lawrence Yun, who's the National Association of Realtors chief economist. Even in markets with lower prices, multiple offer situations have returned in the spring home buying season, following, of course, a calmer winter market. Yes, that's a called seasonality because we tend to see an uptick in home buying demand after the winter months, of course, right? And of course, distress sales and forced property sales, of course, are more or less non-existent. We're seeing a lack of foreclosures, more or less. So that's the only thing they had to say regarding home prices in the report here. But of course, I have a lot to share here. So again, the median sold price is just under $389,000, and by my analysis here, that's an increase of 3.6% compared to March. So because prices increased by 3.6% on a month-to-month basis, of course, this is a seasonal uptick in our US housing market regarding prices. However, though, I want to look at what was the average April month-to-month change. This is the change from from March to April each year, going back to 2010. What was that average change for April month-to-month? And based on my nerdy formula right here, the average was 3.3%. So this gain of 3.6% we saw this year is slightly above the average going back to 2010. Additionally, at $388,800, this is the highest levels going back to August of last year, when the median sold price was just under $392,000. But of course, there's more, right? Because I want to look at the year-over-year changes. So the National Association of Realtors reported a 1.7% decrease from last April, right? And that, by the way, is the third month in a row in which we have decreases in home prices on a year-over-year basis after 11 years of increases, which is absolutely insane. So the third month in a row, we've had decreases in home prices on a year-over-year basis. And this 1.7% decrease is actually the biggest year-over-year drop in 11 years. Also, as I mentioned right here, this is actually a note I added in my last month report here. This year-over-year decrease of 1.7% is likely to be worse in May. I'm not too sure about June, because back in May last year, home prices increased by 3.3%. And if I had to speculate here, I would say that home prices will not increase by 3.3% from April to May this year. But of course, time will tell, and I'll definitely keep you posted. I also want to share with you guys what was the change in home prices from June last year. June last year, again, was the all-time record high at more or less $414,000. So the change from last June, the all-time record high, compared to April this year is a decrease of 6%. Also, as a note right here, in my video I made about 1 month ago, the change in prices back in June through March was a decrease of 9.3%. Now it's only a decrease of 6%. So the decrease in prices from last year's peak is only down by 6%, whereas last month it was down by 9.3%. Also, here's something worth mentioning as well, because the trough was set in January this year, when the median sold price was $361,200. That was a low point in our US housing market regarding home prices. And at that time, prices were down by 12.7% compared to June last year. So what this means is that the decrease we're seeing right now from June to April this year is half the decrease we saw from the trough, which was set back in January. And that, of course, is because home prices have increased ever since February this year. What I also did is look at the average change from June to April each year going back to 2010. And based on my nerdy Excel formula right here, the average June to April going back to 2010 was a decrease of 0.5%, whereas this year we saw a giant decrease of 6%. So historically speaking, we see a huge decrease this year, especially compared to the average going back to 2010. On top of that, this 6% decrease from June to April this year is the biggest June to April decline since 2011. Back in 2011, we saw 11.9% decline. One more thing I do want to mention regarding prices, though, is that even though prices are down by 6% compared to last year's highs, when looking at price changes over the past 2 years, we're still up by 12%. Also, compared to 3 years ago, back in April 2020, the median sold price is up by 36%. In other words, it's good to see that home prices have fallen by 6% from last June. However, though, we still have a lack of housing affordability due to the fact that prices have increased by 36% over the past 3 years. And keep in mind, 3 years ago, back in 2020, average rates were around 3%. And today, at the time of filming this video, average rates are around 6.7%. So, not only did prices increase by 36% over the past 3 years, but rates more than doubled over that time frame. All right, hope you guys appreciate that additional analysis. That analysis tends to take me quite a bit longer than other videos. So if you guys actually like that analysis, then please, of course, hit the like button. And of course, please leave me a comment below as well. I would love some feedback. So let's get back to the report here and talk about days on the market. So days on the market was 22 days this April, down from 29 days in March, but up from 17 days in April 2022. So houses selling faster compared to March, however, much slower compared to 1 year ago. Also, 73% of houses that sold in April were on the market for less than a month. Here's also an update regarding first-time home buyers, because first-time home buyers were responsible for 29% of all home sales in April, up from 28% in April 2022 and also from March 2023. Meanwhile, all cash sales account for 28% of all transactions in April, up from 27% last month and up from 26% from April 2022. Individual investors and second home buyers, who of course make up many cash sales, purchased 17% of houses in April, identical to last year as well as this March as well. And of course, distressed home sales, which of course is foreclosures and short sales, represented 1% of all sales in April, unchanged from a year ago and also unchanged from March this year as well. There's a few slides I want to share with you guys. I don't want to make this video super long, but there's 3 slides I want to share with you guys from the National Association of Realtors. So as I mentioned, prices decreased by 1.7% compared to April last year and have been decreasing more or less ever since June last year. So for example, 1 year ago, back in April 2022, compared to April 2021, prices surged by 14.3%. But fast forward 1 year, they're down by 1.7%. And lastly, here's one more slide I want to share. This is the percent change in home sales from a year ago by price range. The biggest decrease was actually for houses that sold for over $1 million, down 36.5% from April 2022. The biggest decrease is luxury home sales nationwide. After that was in the range of $750,000 to $1 million, down by 31.6%, and in the range of $500,000 to $750,000, down by nearly 29%. And this, by the way, could be one of the reasons why we're seeing prices decreasing from 1 year ago, because we're seeing a lack of houses selling in the upper range. So houses selling for over $750,000, which is actually affecting the mix of home sales and home prices nationwide. And please leave me a comment below. What's your biggest takeaways from today's video? Also, if you guys got any value out of this video whatsoever, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. And of course, I appreciate you. Hope you guys have an awesome day and look forward to seeing you on the next video.